So I want you all to imagine that it's a cold winter morning. The air is thick with heavy mist. The forest is absolutely silent. A 9-year-old me is sitting in a jeep next to a stream, waiting to catch a glimpse of her tiger in the wild, her first tiger in the wild, okay? 30 minutes pass, nothing happens. Then all of a sudden, the entire silence of the jungle is broken with a cacophony of alarm calls. The golden grass in front of me parts, and out steps the queen of the forest herself. What you're seeing right now, the image looks something like that, but this, of course, this image is clicked several years later. But you get the gist of it, right? She walks with such balletic grace, looks around, and her smoldering eyes met mine. Now, what you're feeling right now, that quickening of your pulse, that sense of wonder, that is no ordinary feeling. That, ladies and gentlemen, is awe. And it is one of the most powerful conservation tools humanity has ever had till now. Yet, we are barely using it today. In all my years that I've spent as a wildlife storyteller, what I've really come to understand and learn is that you can't protect something that you don't love. And you don't love something that doesn't move you or has the capability to move you emotionally. It's not just a beautiful emotion, but it is infrastructure. It's how you can forge a world where both humanity and the wilderness not only coexist, but they thrive together. So the wild first found me in the pages of a storybook. Before I saw my first tiger in the wild, I fell in love with Mowgli's Jungle Book. All my friends, they used to be enchanted with cars and dolls. I used to be lost in Mowgli's Jungle Book. I dreamt of running and playing with the wolf pups, sharing honey with Balu the bear, and looking at Bagheera the Black Panther and gaining wisdom from him. So much so that I literally fell in love with the forest without even stepping into it. And that is possible. So you don't have to be physically standing in the forest to actually start to care for it. Because that little girl who used to love and dream about Bagheera is standing before y'all today as a wildlife storyteller, all because that story left her awestruck. Stories plant seeds, and direct experiences make those seeds bloom. Since I picked up the camera at the age of 11, I've spent countless years chasing the untamed, sometimes spending months, if not, several days looking for one perfect photograph. So, from capturing the magic of fireflies in the enchanting land of Bhandardara to actually looking at mayflies dancing under a street lamp to looking at the Nilgiri Tower roaming across the rolling hills at Munnar, or it could be losing yourself in the eyes of an Indian leopard as dusk settles. Each and every time I have felt the same rush of wonder. And what's really important for me is that when I get to share these experiences through films or through photographs with people around me, I also see it happening to them too. So, for instance, a child stops scrolling, a CEO begins to reconsider a policy, a community rallies together to protect their local habitat. And that's the truth about conservation. It does not begin with research papers or with legislation. Those, of course, come later. But it begins the moment someone begins to feel something so profound and strong for the natural world that they just can't seem to look away. So that amazement translates into empathy, empathy becomes love, and love ultimately translates into action. And again, this is not any poetry. It has been proven by research and through studies and psychology. It's a proven fact that awe shrinks ego. Research has said that when you experience awe, you begin to see yourself less as the center of the story and more as part of something that is much more larger. So, awe really rewires the way you perceive yourself as a part of this entire world. You become more connected, more generous, and more human. And that's also the place, let me tell you, where visual storytelling plays an extremely important role in forging the future. I'm sure many of y'all may not have seen a tiger in the wild and may not have been able to hear the orchestra of jungle sounds that exist in a forest simply because you'll have never stepped out into the wild. But through a film or a photograph, you can definitely experience it. A true power of any film or photograph does not lie in what it shows you, but in what it makes you feel and what it makes you do next about it. That's the power of storytelling basically. But of course, there's a challenge. Let me tell you that. Today, the average human attention span has shrunk to about 8 seconds, which is less than that of a goldfish. So when I'm making content or any wildlife film and I'm putting it out there, I'm competing for the audience attention who's possibly, scrolling through music reels, Instagram, videos on Instagram reels, YouTube shorts, switching between shows on Netflix and Disney. So for my films to really be able to capture an attention of the audience, they have to be not just informative, they have to be engaging, they have to be entertainment first, so that a person who watches it stops scrolling and starts caring for our planet immediately. That's what is most important. So what I try to do for me to reach, ensure my films reach beyond traditional conservation circles and really, go into mainstream audience. I try and blend cinematic visual storytelling with the authenticity of the wild. So you have gripping narratives, you have emotional character arcs, all of that with animals. Now all of y'all must have seen DDLJ, right? How many of y'all love DDLJ over here? You have two Indian leopards locking eyes across the grassland. How cool would that be? Why should only humans have slow motion romance? Come on, why can't we give wildlife a Bollywood twist? So I did that with my next directorial called Leopard Dynasty: The Rise of Rana. It's shot right here in Jaipur in the forest of Jalana in Malviya Nagar, and it chronicles the story of one young male named Rana and his journey from innocence to dominance. So, the reason why I brought in so much of the tropes of Bollywood cinema into this particular movie is because I felt if people could, if DDLJ could make people fall in love with the idea of love, then maybe, the same cinematic storytelling could make people fall in love with the wildlife and with Indian leopards as well. Because let's be honest, this is not about being gimmicky, it's about meeting people where they are. For conservation and environment to become the top priority of each and every person, we need to make awe accessible. We need to make it irresistible. So much so, create so many beautiful and wondrous moments that people can't help but seem connected to our planet, but feel connected to our planet rather. And that's the thing that I've learned also in my few years that I've spent as a wildlife storyteller. I've met incredible people, community members who work alongside the forest department, protect our endangered species by risking even their own lives, and also people who share their home with big cats, all because of the deep sense of reverence that they have for our natural world. So I met a guy in Javai in Rajasthan a couple of years ago. He belonged to this tribal community called the Rabaris. Now, Rabaris are traditionally they're goat herders and shepherds. And he and his family have been living, and all his generations have been living in Javai. And they have lost countless goat after goat, okay, to the leopard. Now, by pure economic logic, you will think that he and his family and his community really don't like the leopards, right? Because they're losing their income. But on the contrary, they absolutely love the predator. So, because of the sheer sense of admiration that they have for the big cat, they work with the department to protect the big cat and the front lines of conservation. And this is primarily because they don't see the leopard as, a threat that needs to be eliminated. Instead, they view the big cat as a species that is worthy of respect and of reverence. So, this is exactly the kind of future that I'm talking about that we need to forge. The Rabaris didn't wait for international funding or for government policies to come about and begin to start coexistence. The sheer sense of awe that has passed down through generations is already doing the works. And this sense of wonder is universal. It is humanity's oldest shared emotion, let me tell you. It's what connects us to our past, to each other, and to every being with whom we share this beautiful, fragile blue planet with. And that brings me back to my point that I started off earlier with saying that awe is something that is connected to neuroscience. When you experience wonder, when you're awestruck, your brain cells do change. That's the reason when you look at something that's very beautiful in the wild, it could be a beautiful sunrise, sunset, watching a tiger nursing her cubs. At that point, you begin to see the truth of your existence. The fact that we are not individuals competing for the same resource, but part of an interconnected whole. But the sad truth today is that all these moments that I am chasing through my lens are disappearing. We have nearly lost 70% of our wildlife populations since 1970. And every single year, 10 million hectares of forest land are being lost. That's the size of Iceland, to put it into perspective, that we are losing in terms of our forest cover every single year. So there are a lot of times that I wonder when I press my shutter button, am I documenting a living world or just capturing its final moments before everything starts to slip away? And then that's when I remember that every film I make or every photograph that I take, I'm planting a seed of awe in thousands of hearts. Those seeds can grow up to be forest rangers, protecting our wildlife. They can grow up to be a CEO of a regenerative company, a world leader, maybe, who prioritizes conservation. And together, we'll be able to forge a future that is sustainable as well as equitable for all. Because let me tell you, to be honest, all of us are not wildlife storytellers, but we all definitely can be architects of awe. And I have a challenge for all of y'all, and this is literally I want you all to do this. For the next 1 month, I want you all to share at least one or two pieces of nature content on your social media that has really inspired you, which has really struck a chord with you, resonated with you. Tag your friends, tell them why it moved you. Because when you share pretty pictures, you're actually building emotional infrastructure. You're building the foundation for tomorrow's conservation movement. Also, take any neighboring kid, a kid in your family, out to a park. Doesn't have to be a wildlife sanctuary. It can be a garden to watch, say, butterflies sipping nectar, just to hear bird calls that are available locally. I heard you have peacocks in your campus. Go watch them, because when you start to feel the magic of nature, that's when true change begins to happen. I really believe in this, that one moment of wonder can create a protector for life. Because I first fell in love with the wild through the pages of a storybook, then in the eyes of a tiger, and then in every single frame that I capture, every single moment that I spend in the wild, I fall in love with it more and more. That same magic is probably finding you all today through this talk. I hope and pray that it has. And what really matters is what you do next with that magic. Because the earth is speaking to us in several different ways, through beauty, through awe, through silence. But the big question here is, are we listening to our planet? Thank you so much.